Hey everyone, so in this video we'll start and we'll make a grid pattern brush. I'll show you how to make it a pattern as well as a pattern brush. To start with, I'll select, so I have pre-made canvases, but for the first time I'll make a new canvas for you. We'll select the width and height as 4000 pixels. This is this is the most appropriate size that I found because it gives me a good amount of layers to work with, as well as the pattern is a very high quality one. So I'll go to create. Now once we have created this, we'll go to settings and we'll turn on the drawing guide. We'll go to edit drawing guide, and here I'll select 1000 pixels so that I have a 4x4 boxes grid. Now the next thing that you need to do is select a monoline brush. This is available in the resources section of this class, as well as you can also go to the default Procreate calligraphy brushes and find a monoline brush there. Now you need to select a thin size because usually grids are not very thick, and also turn on the drawing assist. The next thing you need to do is very carefully make a line that follows the grid. As you can see, my line is not very aligned along with the grid, so I'll go to move and I'll turn on magnetics. Now once I have magnetics turned on, it will help me align it perfectly. Now I'll go to the center of the canvas, the center of the line, and I'll move it upwards. Here I can see. Now one thing that usually helps me is changing the color of the guide to something that is visible on black. So I'll make it like pink color. Yeah. And then also make it as opaque and thick as possible so that it's clearly visible. Now we'll go here and we'll move it upwards. Here you need to check the correct for the exact center of the line. Once you've found that, you can go back from the move tool and duplicate this layer a few times. Now you need to make sure that you place these lines on all three of the middle lines, as well as half width of the line on the top and the bottom. I'll show you how to. For the first, I'll move it exactly downwards, and if you have magnetics turned on, it will automatically place the stroke that you've selected onto the grid, but you need to see that it does not place it above or below the grid and exactly in the center. So if you can see clearly, let me zoom it a bit. I have my Apple Pencil pinned down, and it can move it either here, below, in the center, or below. You need to place it in the exact center in order to have a seamless grid. I'll do this again. Now for the top and bottom, you will duplicate this layer once, and what you will do is move it downwards as we did for the above part. But the thing you need to make sure is that you only keep half of the line and not the full line, like this. Now you need only half this on the canvas and half of this out of the canvas. Now you'll not duplicate this, but some other layer from the above three, and you'll repeat the process on the next side. I keep on zooming in order to have accuracy. Yeah. Now once again I'll check my layers, all my sides, so that I know that all of these are filled and pretty much in the center. Once I have all of this checked, I'll go on and fill and combine all these layers. Now one thing I like to do is keep my layers intact, and so I'll group all of these and then duplicate the group, hide my original, and flatten this. And now I'll use this flattened part. Now I'll turn on alpha lock. You can turn it on by two ways. Either you can click on thumbnail and select alpha lock, or you can swipe with two fingers on the layer towards the right. Now I'll select a white color and fill all of this, the whole of this layer, by going to this and fill there. Now I'll copy this. I'll go to my brushes panel. I'll create a new brush library called untitled set. I'll keep it as it is, and I'll go to create a new brush by pressing the plus icon. Now I'll go to shape, and in the stroke path I usually keep my spacing a bit high for anything that is a pattern, so that I can easily paint it and increase its size. The next thing you need to do is go towards the grain and edit the grain source. Here you will go to import and paste. Now as you press done, you will see that your pattern is, if your pattern is working or not. You can increase the preview size and use this. Now one thing that you'll notice is when I remove my Apple Pencil and press it again, it has messed up my entire pattern. Now what this is offset. So we need to turn off offset jitter. And now no matter how many times you lift up your pencil, and this will ensure that your pattern does not move. And whenever you press the Apple Pencil again, it continues from the same place. One more thing that you need to do, because mostly when you add a default brush, a new brush, the Apple Pencil has a pressure sensitivity for opacity, and I'll reduce it to 0, so that no matter how light or how high you press, your pattern is always the same opacity. Now there are not much other settings that I need to change. One thing that you can change according to your specifics is the scale, about how big you want your grid to be. I usually keep it about 50%, but depending on the project where you are using this guide, you can change the scale. And it's done. I'll keep it to 25 and done. So here, so that I can see something over here and not just plain gaps. So to try out this brush, we'll go to a new layer and increase the size. Okay, I have a white color selected. I'll clear this layer by pressing my three fingers on the iPad on the screen and moving in a circle, and it will clear the whole layer. Now I'll select a black color or maybe a green color, and you can see you can paint the pattern as much as you want. Now this is where I think you need one change, and that is go to the brush settings and go to the properties and increase the maximum size. Sometimes when I'm using patterns and I have a good layer to fill, it's very frustrating to have a very small brush and keep on painting. Now see, if you have a bigger brush, you can easily do it very quickly. So now the second brush that we'll make, the second pattern will be similar to this, but now we'll have a square grid rather than just a horizontal one. For this, I'll delete this test layer, and now we'll use the same layer that we used earlier. We'll just duplicate it once. I'll change the background color so that you can see the layer. Done. And now I don't need guides anymore for now. And now you go to move, and you just need to rotate it 2 times at 45 degrees, and you will automatically have a grid. Now if you want to use this other than a brush, what you can do is duplicate it once, flatten it, my mistake, flatten it, and then duplicate it 3 more times so that you have 4 copies, and you can just reduce the size, move them to their specific corners. Here you need to make sure that your magnetics are turned off, because if magnetics is turned on, it makes this process a bit difficult. And when you set your size at 4000 by 4000 pixels, you can easily make sure that your width and height are 2000 by 2000, so that you know that you are doing it perfectly and not missing it by a small amount. One more thing that helps with this is the settings of this distance. If you have this setting, the distance set to max, your can when you are moving or resizing it, it will automatically snap at very from a very far behind. You see how this snaps? This is because of the distance. If I reduce the distance to a very small amount, this distance from where it snaps reduces. You see? So I like to keep the distance very high whenever I'm doing this part. And you have the pattern. In order to make it into brush, I'll delete these pattern layers, and you'll go to your basic swatch that we created earlier, and you'll copy it, go to the brush settings. Now you can go over the same settings that I used earlier and create a new brush, or what I like to do when I'm creating similar kinds of brushes, usually pattern brushes, because you need to change a few settings like offset, jitter, and the opacity. I'll just duplicate the earlier brush, go to the brush and change just the grain. Here I'll just import and click on paste, and this will give me a perfect square guide without making any changes or spending any time on it. And we are done. And I'll also test it out for you. And as you can see this. Now if you want your squares to be a bit larger, you can just go to the brush and increase the scale to about 50% or 60% or 70% as per your requirement. I'll select a lighter color so that you can see the difference. You can also, I'll just clear this once and make this again and you can use this multiple times in all of your projects. The third and final kind of pattern slash brush that you'll be making in this video will be a dot grid pattern. I love dot grids because they have the specifics of the grid and make it easy to write above, because when I have these grids, it's difficult to write above them because you can sometimes these make the writing confusing. That's why I like dot grids more, because they give out the ratios without actually disturbing you a lot. For that, I'll go to my gallery and make a new canvas. You can just go towards the end of the canvases and you'll find your last custom made canvas. Tap on it again and you'll have the same canvas that you used earlier. Now I'll go to settings again, and as we started in the previous one, we'll turn on drawing guide and edit drawing guide. Once you have the drawing guide turned on, you will increase the grid size to about 2000 pixels, or let's see 1000 pixels. It's a bit difficult on 1000 pixels, that's why I prefer using a larger size so that it's easier to do. And once again, I'll increase opacity and thickness so that I do not mess up. Now what you need to do is take your monoline brush that is again included with the class in the resources section, as well as you can find it in the default brushes of calligraphy. Now I'll select white color. I'll change the background to somewhat gray so that we can see what we are writing with white on top. Now you need to go where the two lines intersect and make a circle. I'll select a lower size, and this is a circle that you need to make. Okay, I cannot even see this. I zoomed quite a bit, so I'll zoom out, and here's the circle that you need to make. Now, when you're making a circle, you see it shows ellipse created. In order to make it into a circle, you just need to tap with your other finger on the canvas, and it will make it into a perfect circle. You can reduce the size. Now, here you need to be mindful of the size of the circle that you create, because you cannot change the size of the circle right later on. You can change the size of the entire grid, but not just the circle. So if you want really small circles, you need to decide that now. Now what you need to do is move the circle at the very center of the canvas. And since I have a very huge distance on, it moves it in just a simple slide. And you can check the centers because you have the golden lines as well as all your four dots are lining up. Now once you're done with this, you'll go back and fill this circle. One thing you need to make sure is you fill it at a very high drop threshold. If by chance you have something like this going on, that you are unable to fill it properly, drag the color swatch into the circle and hold it there for a while. You'll see this color drop threshold percentage, and you can drag it towards the right so that to increase it. Don't increase it to 100% because it will fill the entire canvas. Anything above 90 is good enough. Once you have the circle down, what you need to do is duplicate the circle. Now you need to make sure that you fill all 9 places. The 9 places are all the 4 corners, the 4 edges, and the center for the brush. As we did in the earlier part when we making the horizontal brush, what we did was we made sure that on the edges we don't have the whole circle, but only the part that needs to come in and join with the others, right? So when I duplicate this and I move it towards the edge, I'll make sure that only half of it is inside. like this. Now, one thing that you need to make sure is not duplicate this half layer, but rather the full circle that you have. I'll go to move again. And when you are in the corner, you just need, now when you are in the right corner, you just need the left part, the left half of it. So I'll just repeat the process, and we'll make sure that we fill all 9 sides. Whenever you are in the center, like the edge, you will have half a circle, and when you are in a corner, you will have a quarter of the circle on the canvas, and the other 3/4 will stay out, like this. I'll fast forward this. You can slow it down if you want by going to the settings of the class. For me, I personally use the circle grids the most, and I really care about them being perfect. Now, once you think you are done, you just need to count all your layers: 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. I'll group these, and one thing that I always tell, I have told you before also, I like to keep a copy of my originals. Now, just a simple trick that one thing you can do here is duplicate this group and then flatten. Now, sometimes when you're making brushes like these, a bit complicated ones, you have a less number of layers, Procreate will not allow you to just duplicate this layers if you have a very high number of layers. So what you can do for that time is you can hide your background color and just have the dots, the thing that you need to copy all the layers, and you can put down 3 fingers of yours on the canvas and slide down. When you do that, you have a copy and paste option, and you select copy all. This will copy everything that's showing on your screen, on your canvas. And since I only have these layers, it will copy all of these. And then you slide 3 fingers down again and you select paste. This will paste it onto a whole new layer, and you have this as inserted image. Both of these options are perfectly fine and have no difference, and you can use any of these. Now, since I already used a white color for all of this, I'll just go ahead, copy this thumbnail, and again I'll go to the untitled set, the set that I created earlier, and I'll duplicate the brush that we created earlier, and then go to grain and just edit the grain and paste our new one. And as you can see, you have a dot grid. I'll reduce the scale so that you can see it properly. I'll press done. I'll hide these and I'll select a nicer color, and we'll increase the brush size so that we can easily paint over a huge area. I'll make a new layer, and here you can see. Now, you might think that these are very small dots, but I prefer them this way because I usually zoom in when I'm writing. One other thing that you can do is go to the brush settings and scale the pattern up if your writing is very big and you need bigger dots as well, like this. Just remember that changing the brush size from here will have no effect on your pattern. It's just the brush head only determines the area that you are painting your pattern on, and not change the pattern itself. So thanks for watching. See you in the next part.